Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons, or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as MrMostDaysOff, and today we have part 2 of our review of Simpsoncalifragilisticexpiala, where we had the privilege of having Simpsons writer and author of the book, Springfield Confidential's Jokes, Secrets, and Outright Lies from a Lifetime writing for The Simpsons. We are so fortunate. Mike Reiss joined us for such a long time. We had to cut the program into 2 parts, but we have an entire hour of conversation remaining discussing not only this great episode featuring the very memorable character Sherry Bobbins, but we also dive into video games and the Universal Studios theme park ride, which is one of my favorite things to have been able to talk about with one of the minds behind the scenes of how that came to be. So I think we have a lot of really great conversation left. Of course, joining me as always on the other side of this, you'll have Richie theWizKid and, again, Simpsons writer Mike Reiss. So let's dive right back into Simpsoncalifragilisticexpiala. So we do kick off the second act with the family interviewing Sherry Bobbins, and I guess now would be a good time to go ahead and bring up that when you guys wrote this role, I believe it was actually intended to go to Julie Andrews, who played Mary Poppins, but she was not available at the time, so it went to the amazingly talented regular on the show, Maggie Roswell.
Yeah. Maggie is very, very talented. I think you guys would know better than me. Had we killed Maud Flanders by this point?
Not yet.
No.
She's still kicking.
Okay. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, wait. What are you talking about, Mike?
Yeah, Maggie was terrific. She could really sing. It is remarkable when I rewatch the show, how great she is and how well she can be funny and yet sound like Julie Andrews and sing so well. I believe they brought the script to Julie Andrews saying, "Do you want to do this?" And this was the quote I heard. She said, "Are you out of your fucking mind?"
Oh my goodness. And I also heard that she was on Broadway at the time, which makes that even more funny.
Yeah. So she was doing Victor Victoria on Broadway, and that was it. She had zero interest.
The things you learn on this podcast.
Another thing you actually bring up on the commentary, Mike, talking about Broadway, is you pitched to Matt in this DVD commentary the idea of doing like a review show of the Simpsons songs. And it sounded like that was something that you were legitimately pursuing at the time. Was there anything that ever came of that, even in conversations or anything at all?
It's so funny. No, it died right there. And then there was a cabaret show in New York, I think, called We Put the Spring in Springfield. And this very talented troupe did an hour of Simpson songs, and I loved it. It was a huge hit for many years. And then they came, I think, to Comic-Con and to do it for the producers of The Simpsons, Matt Groening, Jim Brooks, and they didn't come to see it. So it sort of the idea died there, except that, again, this Hollywood Bowl show just wound up turning into exactly that. And that, except that it was such a handful and such an organizational nightmare, they could have taken that show on the road, the Hollywood Bowl show. It was just jammed with entertainment and, big production values. I think that could have been it. And I'll say, I'm not starting a rumor here, but I just think I think Disney, now that they own The Simpsons, is going to want to do just that. I'm sure they're going to want to turn The Simpsons into a Broadway musical like they do everything else.
Oh my God, we're going to get the live action remakes all coming around, and then we'll get the animated versions of the live action remakes coming around.
Well, first we need that sequel.
That's true. Yeah. I keep hearing buzz about that on Twitter.
Yeah.
That is, I'll just address that right now, because it was at the time of this taping, Comic-Con had just happened. A fan asked Matt Groening, is there going to be another Simpsons movie? And he said, up and down, he said, we're still recovering from the last one. It was too hard to do. We have no appetite to do another one. I'm guessing sooner or later, maybe Disney will force us to do another one. And the headlines came out. Matt Groening announces Simpsons. And the story not only went around the world, but there was an editorial in Australia going, how greedy are the Simpsons that they're making this sequel? And it's like,
oh
we're
my
not.
God, really?
Oh,
wow. So, I'm curious, is that the general consensus? What not the fact that we're officially announcing Simpsons 2. You heard it here first on Best Darn Diddley, but no, the consensus that Matt said where you're worn out, basically. You're still recovering. Is that generally across the board how everybody feels? Or is there anybody that is like, come on, guys, let's do it?
Jim Brooks is always excited to do these things. He's, every time The Simpsons does anything outside of the TV show, it's always Jim Brooks's idea. And bless his heart, he's the oldest member of the Simpsons team, but he's got the most energy and the most inspiration. So when we do Simpsons Tapped Out or a theme park ride or that kind of thing, that all comes from Jim Brooks.
Oh, very cool.
I think he's always game to do another Simpsons movie and probably to do the Broadway show. I think this marriage between Jim Brooks and Disney is actually going to be great. I think it's a little dream come true for him. So I think you will see more stuff. As I say, we're content just to make the show. It's really, really hard just to make The Simpsons. The presumption was always, we'll make another movie when The Simpsons goes off the air. And it just never goes off the air.
It just keeps happening.
Yeah.
Do you ever wonder if you're in like this weird state of limbo and you're...
Yeah, it is. It could be like a Twilight. No. Yeah.
I will remind everybody, remembering from our talk with Carolyn Omine, who's still working on the show as well, you are allowed to call him Jim Brooks. We will refer to him as James Brooks.
James L. Brooks.
You've got to earn that first name basis with them, I've been told. Very cool. And since you brought it up too, I absolutely love the Universal ride, the theme park ride that you guys have, even though it replaced one of my other favorite franchises ride, the Back to the Future ride, which I thought was incredible. I absolutely love the Simpsons ride. And if the Disney marriage did lead to more theme park attractions, I don't think I would be sad about that at all.
Yeah, that's it. We learned pretty early on. I think the Simpsons' first home entertainment game was a real piece of crap. It was something we did I don't even remember what it was, but when you're an enterprise like this, you just farm this stuff out, and we put out this bad video game, and the fans were they were hurt. It wasn't that they were mad or ripped off. They actually felt hurt, and we said, gee, we're never going to do that again. And since then, any product The Simpsons puts its name on is really vetted by the writers, by the producers. We want to make it good. So, Tapped Out, that kind of thing, all our video games and the ride. We committed a lot of our writing talent to working on that ride, especially Matt Warburton, one of our very most talented writers on the show, just spent a year working on that theme park ride.
Wow. That's really good to hear.
Yeah, that's and you can really tell. What I love the most about the ride, honestly, isn't even the ride itself. It's the line experience. It's when you're waiting to go on this ride. There is so much detail and so many Easter eggs hidden inside this queue that it's just incredible. I mean, you get to watch like through very short clips. You basically watch an entire episode of The Simpsons, an original episode of The Simpsons based entirely around this ride as you're waiting to go. And I even love they have a bit with Professor Frink killing off Doc Brown because, of course, that's a reference to you guys killing off the Back to the Future ride, which it both hurts and tickles me at the same time.
Yeah, it is. Your girlfriend hurts.
Zing!
It is literally a full episode's worth of material. I think there's about 30 minutes of original material you can see waiting in line to get to that movie. I know Matt Warburton said the very hardest part of it was there's a safety video that they had to make, and we did it with Itchy and Scratchy. And, Universal's there. You can't put jokes in this thing. People have to learn the safety rules. And we said, he's going, but it can't be boring, and it's Itchy and Scratchy. So it's actually a very funny safety video, but I think it checks all the boxes. I know very few people have died on that ride.
And also you brought up video games. I will say there is a huge community of people, and myself is included in this one, of fans that want a re-release or some version of the Simpsons Hit and Run, which I believe came out on the PlayStation 2, and it's such a wonderful game. And I don't know if you got the pool to get this done for me, Mike, but if you can get somebody up there at Activision to get that game re-released, man, it would mean a lot to a lot of people.
Okay.
He's like, and I already forgot what you're talking about.
Super interested in that idea. That was a good job.
He's like, just buy some credits on Tapped Out. All right, so we get started with the second act of the episode with the Simpsons interviewing Sherry Bobbins. I almost said Mary Poppins again. I love the line of questioning here, though. Homer is like, question 2, who was your last employer?
Lord and Lady Hovington of Sussex.
Marge, do we know them?
No.
Come on, isn't he the guy I bowl with? The black guy.
That's Carl.
Oh, yeah, so you work for Carl, eh? I love Homer so much. Wonderful, wonderful writing. Don't even say that was Al, Mike. Come on, you were a part of it, right?
Again, I have no recollection of it, and I couldn't find it on YouTube. So I'm literally hearing these jokes for the first time in 20 years. And it is funny where I go, wow, how did we come up with that? But it feeds back into the idea of padding, and that's a very funny exchange that goes absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
Sure.
Zero progress made. It's the same thing as I'm going to start smoking and then give it up. No progress made. 30 seconds of airtime filled.
I'm thinking that somebody on the writing crew, possibly yourself, possibly Al, I'm not sure, but I'm thinking the movie Speed was a big influence on you guys at this time, because in the Springfield Files, you have that wonderful joke about the bus that couldn't slow down. And then this line by Bart right here, I feel like this has to be a reference to that movie as well, because it's got the quote, "Pop quiz, hotshot," which at the time was being said by everyone on, at least where at my time, it was on the schoolyard, because that movie was very popular. But Bart says, "Pop quiz, hotshot. I'm supposed to be doing my homework, but you find me upstairs reading a play, dude. What do you do? What do you do?"
Yep. Yeah, I think the last thing I saw on YouTube yesterday. I go, gee, that's pretty hacky stuff. That's it. Oh, hey, let's parody Speed like all the kids on the 4th grade playground.
Hey, it worked, man. It worked. It made a big enough of an impact that, 20 years later, we're talking about this show every week. So. Yeah. And actually, Sherry Bobbins, a very smart answer, actually. It's also funny. I make you read every article in the magazine, including Norman Mailer's latest claptrap about his waning libido. That's going to ruin all the fun of Play Dude for a 4th grader, for sure.
Yeah, that was a pretty good joke. I can say, that's a good Simpsons joke where it sounds funny. It's got a lot of words in it, and words you don't hear, claptrap and libido, and none of it's going to make sense to our target audience. I like that. Very observational. And it shows that's the kind of joke probably took us an hour to piece together a word at a time.
It's the adult version of making you smoke every cigarette in the car.
No, please. So, Mike, you just said the words target audience, and that made me think something. Honestly, do you guys have a demographic you have in mind? Because to me, it seems like this show ranges from young kids to the elderly.
Yeah, it's a trite phrase, but it's absolutely true that we just write it for ourselves. We never think of the audience. We never think of who's outside this room full of writers working on the show. I don't think we've ever put in a joke saying, oh, kids will like this one, or here's one just for old people. We just try to entertain ourselves. And I was just in Italy last week, where they are so crazy for the show. They're so, much, it was just, much more passionate than in America. And I go, wow, we never gave Italy a thought. And somehow they're just loving whatever it is we're doing.
Well, that's kind of a freeing thought, though. If you just write for yourselves and make yourselves laugh, that takes a lot of the extraneous stuff out of the picture and just makes you enjoy it a little more, I would think.
Yes, absolutely. Eric Idle, I forget the name of it. Eric Idle has, I think it's called Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. He just wrote a memoir about his years at Monty Python, and it sounds exactly like The Simpsons. It was just six amiable guys just trying to make each other laugh, putting on the show, had no plan, had no, guiding vision for it. And then the world loved it, and they were completely shocked and amazed by that.
That's awesome.
Wonderful. So, Sherry is in fact hired. Marge thinks she seems too good to be true, and this is where Homer actually points out that she had just slid up the banister, and Homer's like, I'll say, her butt waxed the banister. You can actually see each other's reflections in the banister itself. We get upstairs and see that the kids' room is an absolute disaster, but Sherry has a solution for that too. And honestly, this is my favorite of the songs by far, because I feel like it's honestly a little on the nose for American culture, but in the best sort of way. We cut to the song where Sherry teaches the kids that by cutting every corner, which is of course the American way, you can get the job done a lot quicker and with less work.
Yeah.
All right, children, let's clean up this room.
Aw, man. Do we have to?
Now, I know a little secret that will make the job go twice as fast. If there's a task that must be done, don't turn your tail and run. Don't pout, don't sob, just do a half-assed job. If you cut every corner, is it really not so bad? Everybody does it, even mom and dad. If nobody sees it, then nobody gets mad.
It's the American way.
The policeman on the street needs some time to rest his feet.
Fighting crime is not my cup of tea.
And the clerk who runs the store can charge a little more for meat.
For meat.
And milk.
And milk.
From 1984. If you cut every corner, you'll have more time for play. It's the American way. We actually get the phrase, just do a half-assed job.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my favorite, too. I mean, it's not just a parody. I guess it's actual satire where it's got a point of view. It's funny. It's such a great upbeat number. Sounds an awful lot like the original song. Chuck Sheets animated it beautifully, and there's a lot of nice cutaways in there. We cut away to Wiggum and Apu. I like Apu singing harmony with Maggie Roswell. That's really nice.
And again, the song is about cutting every corner, but the song doesn't, because I mean, there's a lot happening animation-wise, like to keep this bouncy and entertaining. Like you mentioned, this episode, I should say, does have a lot of music in it, which is kind of unusual. Usually a Simpsons episode will have kind of one key song if it's going to have music, but this one, it really commits to the musical parody.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's Mary Poppins had a lot of great songs.
Again, I haven't seen it, so no.
Yeah. It's pretty shocking. It's got literally maybe 20 songs in it, and they're all classic. They're all great. It's a good movie.
I recall briefly, like when I was a very young kid, I feel like I've seen moments of it, but I just never went back and caught it. But, maybe one day. We'll see. I have nephews now.
There's fun stuff on YouTube, too, where they cut together that song and the song Spoonful of Sugar.
Wow.
That's there's, someone will take our version and lay it over the soundtrack of the Mary Poppins scene, and they just sync up beautifully. It shows you how close, both in copying the song and I think Chuck Sheets and sort of matching the tempo of the original movie, just how well together they fit together.
Yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with the music enough to even hear the similarities for sure. I'll have to check those out. There's Richie, you're going to have to help me remember what this is called. It's the thing that they do like people have been parodying Simpsons scenes on the internet. It's Bort posting, I think.
Simpsons Bort posting.
Oh my god! It basically is just taking what you guys have done and going a degree further, but it's just constant in jokes for Simpsons fans. And I don't know who came up with that concept, but it is absolutely wonderful. I just saw a whole bunch of them this past week where it was the Simpsons characters inserted into the Super Mario Brothers games, and they recreate a bunch of classic scenes, and it's just wonderful.
Wow.
People with more time than me have done some really great things.
Exactly what it is. And I'm not a big meme sitter and reader person on Facebook, but that website or that group always makes me laugh. That's a great group. But I love the animation again in that scene with Bart, because you can even see a sock hanging from his airplane in the middle of his room. I love how dirty Bart's room is, which is kind of gross to say, but it's great. Yeah.
It's typical of the whole episode in that the Simpsons are much filthier in this episode.
Right.
And Lisa's room is a mess. Yeah.
Yeah, like Lisa's room being a mess is very uncharacteristic for it. Like Bart's is believable, but Lisa you would expect to have like a tidy workspace for her homework.
Right. Well, there you go.
Apparently, Sherry Bobbins isn't a complete and total stranger to everyone in town, because as the Simpsons kids and their nanny are walking through the park, we actually see groundskeeper Willie doing a little street performance on the side of the walkway.
He's a maniac for sure. and he dances like he never has before. It's okay, I'm Scottish, I can do that. Miles, I just lied to Mike Reiss.
Oh no.
Not Scottish.
No.
You probably got some there, and if you go far back enough, it's fine. But everyone walking past is not paying any attention to Willie whatsoever. And I love he's like, "Thank you, you ungrateful bast." But Sherry actually recognizes Willie, and they have an encounter. And Willie goes on to explain that they have a bit of a history together.
Well, I mean, she does tell him that it's good to see him again.
Well, and Willie says that when she's asked how they know each other, Willie explains that they were engaged to wed back in the old country, but then she got her eyesight back, and suddenly the ugliest man in Glasgow wasn't good enough for her.
It's good to see you again.
Ah, that's not what you said the first time you saw me.
Do enjoy that joke.
Example too, Dan Castellaneta singing in character.
Oh my goodness. That's three. I didn't think about that. I was thinking Homer and Barney, but that's three characters that he performs music in this episode. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know why, but apparently Sherry Bobbins coming to town gives everybody an old-time feel. I think you reference Oliver Twist here at one point, and you have Kearney dressed up like a paper boy doing the old extra, Ripper strikes in Whitechapel. Yeah. Boy for sale, boy for sale.
Is this legal, man?
Only here and in Mississippi.
Very true.
Yeah. Mississippi.
And Mike, I think you let a little bit more magic slip in than you may have realized, because the cold-hearted Mr. Burns shows up and Sherry Bobbins is able to warm his heart through nothing more than flying a kite.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I like how the movie, our parody, suddenly turned into Oliver. It just shows you, it's almost racist, except you can do anything, to English people. It's just the idea. All right, Mary Poppins, Oliver, same movie. It turned into 4 weddings and a funeral, too.
It somehow fit, though. It worked out. It was seamless in the most weird of ways. Yeah. And the thing is, Sherry's right once again, because at first, Mr. Burns is completely against the idea of flying this kite.
Boulder Dash, this is the silliest load of...
And then suddenly you can just see he kind of turns childlike again.
Oh, look at it fly. Whee! Look at me, Smithers.
But then, almost on cue to ruin the good time, the dark clouds come in, and you can see the joke coming. The kite gets struck by lightning, and Mr. Burns takes quite the shock. But it actually works out pretty well, because suddenly Mr. Burns feels something in his chest, and Smithers explains, "I think that's your heart beating again, sir."
Oh, that takes me back. See, you said that was magic, Miles. I think that's just science.
Is it? My bad. Yeah.
That's it. All our sick and dying people just need to be struck by lightning.
That'll fix them.
That's Trump's replacement for Obamacare.
I don't think Trump could come up with something that smart.
We'll try.
So right here, after we see how Mr. Burns got his heartbeat back, there's actually a cut sequence here, which was actually a song. And you talked about this earlier, how everything kind of goes through the table read to see if it's going to work or not. And Patty and Selma actually had a song here that they were supposed to cut to called "We Love to Smoke," which is a parody of the Sherman Brothers' "I Love to Laugh," which you can actually, the easy way, since Mike already endorsed it, is you can find it on YouTube, but it's also on the special features of the DVD on the box set, because it's a pre-season 20 DVD. But
yeah.
Any insight on this song or anything you want to share with us from behind the scenes on this one, Mike?
No, I'm trying to remember, too. There's something on YouTube. Is it an animatic? I think it got as far as rough animation. I don't think we did full color animation on the segment. I know we recorded the song. It's mostly Al just didn't like it. And I get it. It is no fun to hear those two singing. I mean,
it's a lot of coughing, and it's very, very... I do think it's funny for what it's worth. And honestly, if you're going for some sort of after-school special message, it does promote not smoking.
That was it. I'm not sure what his problem was with it, but I buy the fact you don't want to hear those two singing and coughing. But yeah, I think it was pretty funny.
Well, and plus you don't want to ruin your reputation of turning in an extra long episode.
I know.
Right?
When you can deliver an 11-minute episode of The Simpsons.
So back at the Simpsons home, which is what we actually cut to in the episode, we can see that things are starting to go pretty well. Marge's hair is fuller than it was. The house is tidier than it ever has been. And they basically say that Sherry Bobbins is downright a miracle worker. The kids love her. Everything is spotless. It couldn't be better. And Marge even points out that her hair has come back so full that it will support a beach umbrella, which she actually demonstrates. Oh. And for some reason, this is a turn on for Homer.
Yeah, I like
Come to bed, Marge.
It's like a nudist beach thought, I'm assuming. I don't know. Let's not get into that too much.
I don't know, because Homer, he's turned on twice before in the episode, too.
Oh, that's right. He's watching women's volleyball.
Yes, watching women's volleyball. He's great.
To be fair, that who doesn't get turned on by that? Am I right?
So yeah, we went to that well a few times.
Rule of threes, man. You nailed it.
Yeah.
Apparently, the Simpsons go to bed at 8 o'clock, despite the fact that they're not sleepy, and they request a song. But I actually like that Sherry reacts like a human in this moment. I've been singing you songs all day. I'm not a bloody jukebox. Like, you got to admit, like, after spending a full day with children, even children that you enjoy, I love my nephews, but after a full day, I'm like, thank God it's bedtime.
Yeah. Yes, I have no children. I'm going to keep it that way.
Same. Nephews are just fine by me.
Yeah.
Well, I like in this moment, too, where they stick with what Mike was saying earlier, where they're kind of acting out a character, but doing the Mary Poppins thing, where they're all getting in the same bed when it's clearly Lisa's room.
Oh, yeah. How English of them.
Racist.
Yeah, just have to keep going to that well again.
Yeah.
But after seeing the kids' sad faces, Sherry does decide to sing a song, and it's actually a very beautiful song. It's called A Booze Hound Named Barney, and we're actually just going to cut right here to back all the way at our 50th podcast. We had a very talented singer and songwriter by the name of Emmy Bede perform this song for us, and instead of us butchering it, we'll just cut to that here and continue our conversation with Mike so he doesn't have to sit through that. But it's a beautiful song with wonderful animation. And I really love the end when Bart is asking about if he can be a booze hound, but Homer chimes in, not till you're 15.
Yeah.
Parent of the year.
In front of her tavern, flat on his face, a booze hound named Bernie's pleading his case. Buy me a beer, 2 bucks a glass. Come on, help me, I'm freezing my ass. Buy me brandy, a snifter of wine. Who am I kidding? I drink turpentine. Move it, ya drunk, or I blast your rear end. I found 2 bucks. Then come in, my friend. And so let us leave on this heartwarming scene. Can I be a booze hound? Not till you're 15.
But it was originally 18, and then we go, which is still a joke, but then we go, oh, 15. And so
That's funnier.
we managed to punch it up. It's so funny. The one thing in that line, in that song that bugs me 20 years on, when I've forgotten most of the episode, is Barney says, buy me some booze, a snifter of wine. And I go, you don't put wine in a snifter. I was so mad. I go, I'll let it go. And now here we are 20 years later. I'm still having a small stroke over it. Snifter.
All of your fans at Alcoholics Anonymous just cannot stand this episode for that reason.
The cognac makers are really mad.
You know, a vineyard should release. You guys should work with a vineyard and release like a Simpsons bottle of wine that is specifically
with real
served in a
tobacco?
snifter. Yeah.
Wow, what a great idea.
You get one per year, Mike.
So you mentioned again that everything is just kind of turning English throughout this episode, including the breakfast that the family is eating the next day. And Homer's like, ooh, I can't get enough of this blood pudding.
The ingredient is blood.
Blood? Yeah. I'll just stick to the brain and kidney pie, thank you.
English food jokes.
But what's noticeable here is how perfect and pristine everything in the house is. The family is acting pleasant. The house is clean. Marge's hair is full. And Sherry essentially announces that her work here is done and it's actually time for her to go. There's a, exchange. Everybody thanks everybody. And Homer even tells her, you've changed me as well. I'm no longer the money-driven workaholic I once was. Thank goodness she was just in time. He would have needed to have been struck by lightning while flying a kite to handle what was going to happen to him.
Yep.
But almost immediately, Sherry leaves and she's talking about how she's going to regret not ever hearing their sweet voices again. But then almost immediately, we see Homer and Bart burst through the window, fighting with one another. Inside, this is where Mike was talking about. Lisa is banging on a pot and pan, just kind of like Bart was in a flashback episode where he's like trying to get everybody's attention. So very un-Lisa-like, but basically within seconds of her walking out the door, everything is right back to where they began, including Marge's hair falling out again.
Right. Oh, it's terrible, right? Marge, isn't she huddled in the corner?
Yes.
Is that
She's in like...
Yes, she is.
The animation is amazing. She's shaking so violently, it almost looks like the cartoon is glitching. But it's just really, really a fun way that they decided to animate that.
Yeah, someone, I think on Twitter recently posted that, saying it gave her nightmares and she hates seeing Marge like that. Again, I'm with her. This episode goes a lot darker than is my taste in The Simpsons. I like the characters. I like these people. I hate to see Marge suffering that way.
Well, it's something that, you kind of see her suffer on like a week-to-week basis just on a very small... She's like micro-dosing suffering. Yeah. Versus this is, you're just hitting her pretty hard and pretty consistently throughout the episode.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it. That's what the plot of the episode demanded, but that's why I tried to stop this enduring classic.
The success of this episode despite your best efforts?
Right. It shows you how powerless and impotent I am at work.
Well, Sherry Bobbins realizes that her work here definitely is not done, and we actually close out our second act, though, with Grandpa flying out the door, holding onto an umbrella, screaming out, "I think we got our umbrella switch! Woo! I've never felt so alive!"
I love that animation, too. Snoring while he's flying upwards. Somehow holding onto the umbrella.
And somehow making it through, which we can't say for everybody that flies away in this episode, but we'll get there. We're not quite there yet. We open up our third act with Sherry grinding pepper for Bart's meal, and he keeps... At this point, the Simpsons just turn into complete and utter assholes, honestly. Bart's being a little dick here. He's like, a little more, a little more, a little more, a little more. Oops, too much. Take it back. And she actually does. Yeah. That's the worst part.
Who are these people?
And time to watch TV again.
Yes, exactly.
Cut back to the TV well again, yeah. It's a good joke, though. Since you probably don't remember, Mike, this is where you parody the Before They Were Famous, and we see a bit of Rainier Wolfcastle back before he was McBain, and he was appearing in his first commercial in native Austria.
Mein Bratwurst has a first name. It's Fritz. Richie already sang this at the top of the episode, so he won't do the really super long last name.
It is very funny, though. The Fritz Schnafferhausen.
Yeah,
Snackenpfefferhausen.
Yeah.
There
you go.
Strung together a bunch of German names. I think it cuts off, too, right? Like it's...
Yeah, he trades in it.
Much.
So we have no idea how long it keeps going. At this point, we see that the entire family is really starting to now take advantage of Sherry Bobbins. Homer is asking for a beer, and I love that at first all of her musical numbers would always, go on and inspire and change, but she starts to sing and is almost immediately cut off. Well, Homer, if there's a job that must be done, you'll find it's much more fun.
You'll find it's even more fun if you get it for me.
But the beer will taste more sweet if you get up off your seat.
Lady, the man asked for a beer, not a song.
And just that magic of music is even that was too much magic for Mike in this episode. He said, no, we're done with it.
No wonder Marge is losing her hair.
Yeah.
Another very funny and very just silly TV reference where we get a different version of the Andy Griffith Show with Charles Bronson replacing Andy Griffith as the titular character. For those that do not know, Charles Bronson is actually an action film star. He's got a reputation for playing like sheriffs and outlaws, and he was born in 1921 and passed away in 2003, and just always played these very gritty, vigilante-like characters. So the idea of him being the country boy sheriff in the Andy Griffith Show is just very funny in its own right.
Yes, I should mention it plays to something Hank Azaria had done on the show for years, which is he has a character called Wise Guy, and I'm sure your fans, your listeners know this guy. He pops up in many, many episodes, often looking completely different, having different jobs. That's always, all right, lady, there, step to the side, lady. He's Wise Guy. That's his whole character. And finally, Hank admitted, it's just a bad impression of Charles Bronson.
That makes so much sense.
Oh my gosh.
I am complete now.
And I'm guessing, again, the listeners of the show may know, Hank Azaria freely admits many, many of his characters are just bad impersonations, really bad impersonations. So people may know Chief Wiggum is just a bad Edward G. Robinson, but who is it, Eddie, the cop, or Lou? I forget which cop he is.
Lou.
If only we had somebody who created the show with us who could straighten this out.
It's a bad Sylvester Stallone impression. And Mo super bad impression of Al Pacino.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, that's really bad. So that's it. So he said, well, as long as he can do Charles Bronson, let's let him actually do Charles Bronson. And that's where
there you go.
That's where that segment came from.
And again, just that whole premise in general is just a fun flip on the idea. My parents watched the Andy Griffith Show all the time, so I'd see that pretty frequently. And it's just the most wholesome, almost makes you want to puke type of wholesome. It's just that clear cut. And then Bronson is in there talking about how he's going to go down to Emick's Fix-It shop to fix Emmett.
Yeah. Funny, I'm glad you like that. It's got 3 levels of datedness to it. It's like any contemporary viewer would go, who's Charles Bronson? Griffith Show. And wow, we're parodying these before they were famous specials that were very popular on at the time. I don't know if you even realize that was a thing back then.
Oh, yeah. Also get another bit real quick. It's not a TV bit anymore. It's actually up in Bart's room where he is just completely devolved back to being a little prick as he's throwing cupcakes against the wall one at a time, even though Sherry is telling him to clean up. He's like, oh yeah, I'll get right on it, and throws another cupcake.
Don't you remember cleaning up can be a game?
Yeah, I got a better game. It's called whipping cupcakes. But then it's right back to the TV, and I gotta say, this might be one of my favorite itchy and scratchy episodes of all time. It's Reservoir Cats, and it's obviously a parody of Reservoir Dogs, complete with the song Stuck in the Middle with You. and Itchy is cutting off Scratchy's ear. It's absolutely
The episode
wonderful.
was directed by special guest director Quentin Tarantino, too.
Tarantino actually makes an appearance, or at least an animated version of him here, and he explains that what I'm trying to say in this cartoon is that violence is everywhere in our society, you know? It's like even in breakfast cereals, man. And he gets cut up by Itchy and Scratchy, but I read, or honestly, I at this point don't remember if I read this or heard this on the commentary, but Quentin Tarantino has actually offered this part, and I believe you said that he turned it down. Do you have any more that you can share on that?
It's just a little mystery. Al and I wrote that bit knowing he would do it. This was a time right after Pulp Fiction where he was everywhere, and he turned nothing down, and he hosted Saturday Night Live, and that may be the only time a movie director ever hosted SNL. He just had made himself such a personality. We said, we know he's going to love, injecting himself into pop culture this way. So we wrote him the part. We sent it to his manager, and we got turned down, and we were just flabbergasted. And then years later, he was spotted wearing an Itchy and Scratchy T-shirt, and the IMDb version of this, which I just looked at the other day, says that he was very offended by the dialogue we had written for him. But I think someone asked him about it. He said, I never heard the offer. There's, the manager just did not make the offer to him, which I believe, or somehow it fell through the cracks, because I know he would have loved to have done this, but he did not do it. And again, it's the great Dan Castellaneta doing a Quentin Tarantino impression.
And it's a great job, but it would have been neat just to have Quentin Tarantino as a voice on The Simpsons, just because of how prolific his work has gone on to be. It would have been interesting. I also heard, though, that Itchy and Scratchy shirt was definitely a bootleg Itchy and Scratchy shirt. Like, they were off, is what I was told when I was doing my research on that.
Wow, he doesn't cut us a break, Danny.
Yeah.
I felt like that was just a little bit of, salt in the wound on that one. I always wonder, I mean, I know you guys are the Simpsons, which I guess probably gives you a little bit of pull in Hollywood and whatnot, but what is the process like to try to get some of these guest stars? I mean, like you said, this one, you feel like it never even got to Quentin Tarantino. I mean, even as big as you guys are, do you guys ever have a hard time getting access to some of these voice actors you reach out to?
We have great casting people, so that we always find a way to get to them, and it's The Simpsons, it really has this cachet, and people want, it's an offer that gets through usually. So, I mean, that's it. I mean, the proof of it is we got Banksy, we got Thomas Pynchon, people like that come to us to be on the show. And very often it's different processes how we get to these people. I know once we had Thomas Pynchon, we decided, let's get J.D. Salinger. We had Thomas Pynchon, the second most reclusive writer on earth. Let's see if we can get the first, J.D. Salinger.
Oh, I was thinking John Schwartzwelder.
Salinger was, wow.
So that was it. And so we knew someone who knew J.D. Salinger's son. Matt Salinger was a very successful actor. It's funny, his father wrote Catcher in the Rye, and his son starred in Revenge of the Nerds. So we went to Matt Salinger, and apparently it is the quickest rejection we ever got. 45 seconds later, Salinger calls up and said, it's not happening, man.
Hey, you gotta take the shot, though. That would have been that's still cool that you even got a conversation with him to turn you down, right?
Yeah. So that's it. It's funny. It's a very short list of people who have asked to be on The Simpsons. We wrote them apart, and then they turned it down. And that list is, I guess, George Lucas, Prince, and Lyle Lovett. And it's like the show. Show really suffered for not having Lyle Lovett.
That's definitely one of those, you name three people or one of the things is not like the other.
Yeah, that's really. Either 3 celebrities or 2 celebrities and Lyle Lovett.
So we see that this the antics of the family are starting to take their toll on Sherry Bobbins, and Sherry is actually like binge drinking with Barney of all people in the Simpsons living room, and they're actually kind of drunkenly singing together, "Wasted away again in Margaritaville."
Searching for my lost shaker of salt. Oh, here it is.
And Barney just starts shaking salt directly into his mouth because, he doesn't have enough health issues.
It's funny listening to this recap. I'm thinking like a producer, how much money we spend on music, all these original songs, but then, you have to pay for Margaritaville. That's not cheap. And we had the original master of hair in that Marge's hair sequence. And
yeah,
expensive. It's I get the feeling we were visiting producers instead of being the guys running the show that year. And we probably just blew out the music budget and said, all right, let these guys handle it.
Well, you guys probably are like, yeah, we got Disney dollars now. Deal with it.
We can fill the rest of the episode with TV spots. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is the Simpsons actually witness this breakdown of Sherry, and they actually kind of have a moment where they realize, like, oh my God, like, we've broken this poor woman. And Bart even says, yeah, you people should be ashamed of yourselves, right before throwing another cupcake against the wall. Marge goes on to explain, Sherry, you did the best you could, but you just can't change this family. And neither can I. From now on, I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the ride.
Haven't I taught you people anything?
And literally every member of the family just says, nope, 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 until Maggie just shakes her head, nope. And that brings us to our last of the musical number, which is Happy Just the Way We Are, I believe is what it's called.
Yeah.
This is my favorite song in the episode. I love this song.
Yeah. If you ever see me perform publicly, I give a lot of presentations. I always show this clip. I show this song with its shocking ending. But yes, what's funny too is it's a great number. It's a parody of a very forgettable number from Mary Poppins. It's a parody of "Contented is the Life I Lead," but it really suited us here.
So you like it this way?
Indubitably. Around the house, I never lift a finger. As a husband and father, I'm subpar. I'd rather drink a beer than win Father of the Year. I'm happy with things the way they are.
I'm getting used to never getting noticed.
I'm stuck here till I can steal a car.
The house is still a mess, and I'm going bald from stress.
But we're happy just the way we are.
They're not perfect, but the Lord says love thy neighbor.
Shut up, Flanders.
Oakley dokley do.
Don't think it's sour grapes, but you're all a bunch of vapes, and so I must be leaving you.
Goodbye, Sherry Bobbins.
Thanks for everything.
So long, Superman.
You think we'll ever see her again?
I'm sure we will, honey. I'm sure we will.
I particularly love the line with Flanders and Homer's where he says, but the Lord says love thy neighbor. And it's so simple. Like, shut up, Flanders. Oakley dokley do. Yeah. Every time I see this episode, that is in my head for weeks. I'm humming. I was humming it at work all night last night. People think I'm crazy. And I'm like, I'm talking to Mike Reiss later. I got to get in tune here.
You brought up the Flanders, and that reminds me, I completely forgot to talk about a joke I love during the Cut Every Corner song, and it's actually when they reference the fact that even your parents do it. We see Homer dumping trash or a couch, I think it was, over the fence, and Ned Flanders pops up rubbing his head like he just got clobbered.
That's beautiful. That, I think, is really inspired directing. I'm sure that's the director figuring out how to time that joke, and it's really funny. You didn't see what happened, but you piece it all together. So this final number here, you'll probably comment on it, is the idea. It's worth going to YouTube to watch it just to see this moment where the family is all singing, "We're happy with things the way they are," and we forgot to record Homer, and so
Yeah.
And so the animators just followed that. So you'll see 3 of the family members singing, and Homer's just standing there like an idiot with his mouth closed. But his mouth is shut, and he looks like he forgot his line. And it's just such a funny detail. I think no one would have noticed. And it was when we were doing the final screening of the show is where Chuck Sheets said, well, you didn't have him sing, so we didn't animate him. So it's
And that was legitimately just you guys forgot? Like, that's all that was?
purely a mistake. It may have been an editing error in that soundtrack. And, I think it's a bunch of people singing together. You could have had him singing along, but it's really funny. And it's a great indication that, mistakes slip through all the time. And there's, you guys who scrutinize the episode so well will probably see, oh, wow, how did that get through? Or that's not right. Or look at that guy.
In a funny way, though, it's fitting to Homer's character.
Yeah.
Like, he does just kind of sit there like a dope, but Homer is a dope, so.
He's got a big grin on his face, like so happy to be in the musical number.
So happy to be a participant, at least, even if he doesn't get to sing.
Yeah.
But that actually leads us to our farewells. Everybody says goodbye, Sherry Boppins. Thank you for everything. And Barney shows up to say, so long, Superman.
Yeah.
I love the last little joke here. It's actually, according to IMDb, again, one of the few times a person on the series actually dies on screen.
Oh.
But Lisa asks, do you think we'll ever see her again? And Homer reassures his daughter. I'm sure we will, honey. And as soon as he says, I'm sure we will, we see Sherry flying away on her umbrella, sucked in through a jet engine of an airplane, and just shot into smithereens on the other end of that.
Smithers.
I understand that joke was actually, once again, something you don't throw away your good material. If I'm not mistaken, that was actually recycled from The Critic that was supposed to go into the next season. What was that going to be? I would have to assume that's one of the movie trailers?
It was not. No, it was, people who love The Critic would just be heartbroken to know. I think we had 9 or 10 complete scripts written for the next season of The Critic that never came along. And that, I think it actually wasn't supposed to be, that may be the legend. It was supposed to be in the next season. I think it was a joke we wrote for some existing episode of The Critic. And it was supposed to happen in real time. I think The Critic is flying across country. And then it was a joke we were trying to add right at the last minute, that the airplane, as he's flying to London, sucks in Mary Poppins. And we just couldn't get it into the show in time. So we were probably going to, save it for the next season of The Critic, which never happened. But it was the point is, it was definitely written for The Critic, never got used. We decided to use it here, and then, I'm the naysayer on so much of this stuff. I think Al Jean and Reed Harrison, our writer on staff, suddenly got nervous about it. They go, can we end the show this way? This is super dark, and I went to bat for it because it just always got a big laugh. And sure enough, I show it every time I give a speech. Because it always gets a big laugh. And the rare times where I show it near the top of my presentation, if the crowd doesn't laugh at it, I go, all right, screw you guys. You're not going to laugh at anything I say if you don't like that joke.
Well, it is a very distinct way to end the episode. I guess it does kind of cut out the possibility of the sequel. Maybe that's why you couldn't get that through, right?
Well, I think just recently they had Sherry Bobbins turn up as a ghost. Every once in a while I tell a story like that, and then I find out, oh no, you're telling something that hasn't been on the air yet, and I get I think it's in the next Halloween show.
Right on. You heard it here first.
Yes, you did. You heard it here, and you probably
That's episode 666, I believe.
Episode
Stranger Things,
the next Halloween show. Yes, if it hasn't aired already, that's where it turns up. Just as where you get to see all the people who have died over the course of The Simpsons.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's actually very exciting. And also, I feel like you're going to have at least some nerd somewhere being like, well, I think you forgot to include so-and-so.
Yeah, I'm sure. All right, nerd, you'll be in the next.
And that does bring us to the end of our third act and to the end of the episode. Mike, I know we talked a lot about it already, but is there anything else at all that you would like to share about your experience working or writing on this episode, or just anything in general that you'd like to share with us?
No, I don't think so. It is the last episode I ever wrote for The Simpsons. It was a grand way to go out. I'm glad people like it. I'm glad Al fought so hard against me to get it in. I'm glad people are still watching it. I wish you could see it for free on YouTube, and you can still see it in Spanish. By Springfield Confidential, which is also just came out in Spanish.
Hey, there you go. You could learn Spanish by reading Springfield Confidential in Espanol.
Yes, you can read it.
And then you could watch Sherry Bobbins for free.
It's in Spanish, it's in German, and it's in Croatian. So that's where the big money is coming.
Absolutely.
Do you do the audiobook reading for all of those?
I do not do that, no.
I would love to hear you in Croatian. That'd be a lot of fun.
That's it. If you're too cheap to buy any of that stuff, please follow me on Twitter, Mike Reiss Writer. I give you one good joke a day, just like the Jimmy Fallon Show.
Perfect. Richie, real quick, was there anything else that you or that book of yours wanted to include before we get on out of here?
My book, The Simpsons, A Complete Guide to Our Favorite Family, did point out that in the Apu singing part with Sherry Bobbins, that he has a hot dog with a Band-Aid on it, which we also saw him get fired for in Homer and Apu.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
But besides that, no, that's it. Mike, thank you so much. It was so awesome. It's always fun learning behind the scenes stuff, and you always have such great stories, which a lot of them you can read in his book, if we haven't mentioned that yet. But really appreciate you coming on and shedding a lot more light on this episode that's got a lot of fond memories for a lot of us.
Oh, great. Thank you, guys. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. It really is an honor to have you here. And everything Richie just said, of course, but just thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be here. It means a lot to us as fans, and it's just such a unique and fun experience for us to be able to share this time with you. So thank you for that. Make sure you follow Mike Reiss at Mike Reiss Writer. He gives more than the one joke a day. He's being humble. Read his book, Springfield Confidential, Joke Secrets and Outright Lies from a Lifetime Writing for The Simpsons. It's a very, very good read. It's available in audiobook, paperback, hardback. You have no excuse not to read it at this point. Go and check that out on Amazon or anywhere else you can find books. Follow Richie at theWizKid. theWiz_Kid23. I'm at MrMostDaysOff, and our show is at Best Darn Diddly. And of course, make sure you come back again next week. We're going to be recording live from our home planets, the Itchy and Scratchy and Poochie Show.
All right. Well, on that note, next week the podcast shall come again.
And until next time, be cromulent to each other.